The difference between kink and fetish. Welcome back. Today, let's straighten out a few misconceptions around kinks, fetishes, and BDSM. I've heard the confusion over and over, people mixing them up or assuming BDSM means you have a fetish. So let's break it down clearly. In 2016, a UK retailer, Ann Summers, surveyed around 2,300 people and found that 75% claimed to have at least one fetish. The top reported interest was BDSM, but here's where I want to step in. BDSM isn't exactly the same thing as having a fetish. They're related, but not identical. And no, it's not shocking that customers of a sexy lingerie and toy brand would say they're into BDSM, but we need to get precise about terms. Let's start with kink. Kink is a broad umbrella covering any non-typical intimate interests. Notice I say intimate, not necessarily sexual. Society tends to assume that anything kinky must be tied to sex, but not always. In other words, kink just means something that falls outside the so-called norm. What's normal? Historically, it's been defined as heterosexual, missionary position sex within a marriage between two cis able-bodied people. By that rigid standard, most of us have done something kinky, whether it's trying a new position, using a blindfold, or enjoying a bit of consensual spanking. The line between normal and kinky moves as culture and time change. Anal sex, for instance, felt taboo decades ago and is more commonplace now. Items like handcuffs or riding crops, once considered extreme, are sold widely, even in mainstream stores. Think about the huge popularity of 50 Shades of Grey. People are curious about power exchanges, ropes, floggers, and more. Kink can be as simple as using a blindfold in a bedroom, or as elaborate as building an entire identity around being part of the BDSM community. Maybe attending parties, dungeons, or munches. It's a big spectrum. But let's remember, kinks don't always have to be sexual. Surprise? Many people enjoy kink as a form of intense connection, creative expression, or even a non-sexual hobby. Some are asexual and still find meaning in rope bondage, sensation play, or power dynamics. No orgasm required. Kink can be art, sport, meditation, or spiritual practice. Now, what about BDSM specifically? BDSM stands for bondage, discipline, dominance, submission, sadism, and masochism. 6 concepts rolled into 4 letters. It can involve tying someone up, role-playing authority, using impact toys, or navigating power exchanges. It's not automatically a fetish, just one corner of the wide world of kink. This leads us into fetishes. Unlike kink, fetishes have a more medical or psychological definition. A fetish is a sexual fixation on an object, body part, or a scenario that isn't normally considered sexual. And here's the crucial difference. Where a kink is a preference, a fetish feels like a necessity. For a fetishist, that object or focus must be present, or at least imagined, for them to get aroused to reach orgasm. Fetishes are inherently sexual. Kinks aren't always. Fetishes aren't rare though. Some data suggests they're more common in cis men, but we're still unsure why. We do know the most popular fetish is often feet. The theory? In the brain's sensory map, the foot and genital areas sit close, leading to some crossed wires. Almost anything can become a fetish. Just think of how unique human sexuality can be. Many live happy and healthily with their fetishes. They find partners who embrace their interests and experience fulfilling sex lives. However, fetishes have been pathologized in the past. Older medical texts listed them as paraphilias, sexual deviations considered problematic. But context matters. If a fetish involves consent and doesn't cause anyone harm, it's just another flavor of sexuality. Over time, society has gotten more open-minded. Still, if someone's fetish causes distress or leads to non-consensual behavior, therapy might help manage or understand it better. It's important to note that social stigma can make having a fetish painful. Sometimes the shame isn't about the fetish itself, but about what others might think. The good news is, we're gradually moving towards a culture that's more tolerant of sexual diversity, as long as it's consensual. In summary, kink is broad, sometimes sexual, sometimes not. And it's just something beyond vanilla. BDSM is a type of kink focused on power dynamics and can be sexual, emotional, or spiritual, but not necessarily a fetish. Fetishes are sexual fixations on specific things, and that element is essential for arousal. Consent is the key to everything. Know your terms, communicate with your partners, and never be ashamed of what you like. Just make sure everyone involved agrees and respects boundaries. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Where do you see yourself on the kink spectrum? Drop a comment and let's keep learning together. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and embrace what makes you unique. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, leave me a comment, and as always, these videos are for educational purposes only. So I will see you in the next video.